Roman Callahan fired the only woman he trusted, and 4 hours later he was begging her to answer the phone. But this is not just a story about a mafia boss who made the wrong decision. It is about the moment trust breaks the silence that follows, and the terrible realization that power cannot bring back what pride has destroyed. On a rain-soaked morning above downtown Chicago, Avery Sloan stood before a table of dangerous men, while the man she had protected for 3 years chose a folder over her word. She handed him her security card, walked into the storm, and carried with her a secret that could save his life. Stay until the end, because this story reveals what loyalty costs, what betrayal exposes, and why some apologies arrive too late. Like the video and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. 4 hours earlier, before the gray security folder reached Roman Callahan's hand, and before a black Cadillac began following Avery Sloan through the rain, Chicago was still waking beneath a ceiling of storm clouds. At 6:48 that morning, the private elevator opened onto the executive floor of Callahan Tower. Avery stepped out carrying 2 cups of coffee and a leather portfolio pressed beneath one arm. The floor was quiet enough for her heels to echo across the marble. Beyond the glass walls, the Chicago River cut between the buildings like a dark ribbon, and the first lights of morning trembled in the rain. Roman stood at the far end of his office with his back to the door. He had removed his suit jacket and rolled his white sleeves to his forearms. One hand rested in his pocket. The other held a phone that had gone silent several minutes earlier. He stared down at the traffic moving along Wacker Drive as if the entire city had been placed beneath him for inspection. Most people announced themselves before entering Roman Callahan's office. Avery set the coffee on his desk. "You are 14 minutes early," he said. He did not turn around. "You arrived 22 minutes early. That does not answer the accusation. It makes the accusation mathematically unfair." Roman looked over his shoulder. His face was composed as always, but the skin beneath his gray eyes was darker than it had been the day before. His hair was still damp from the rain. A thin line appeared between his brows as his gaze moved from Avery to the coffee. "You added another shot. You slept 3 hours. How do you know you called me at 2:17? That does not mean I stayed awake after the call. You sent 3 messages at 2:42, 56, and 3:11. Roman took the cup. "Maybe I was working in my sleep. You are difficult enough when conscious." A quiet breath left him almost a laugh, though Roman rarely allowed amusement to become visible. He raised the coffee to his mouth, and some of the tension in his jaw eased after the first drink. Avery noticed. She always noticed. She knew he hated silence after a difficult phone call, even though he often created it. She knew he tapped his thumb against the side of his watch when he was angry and rubbed the edge of his cuff when he was worried. She knew he drank black coffee every morning but reached for bourbon when his sister refused to speak to him. She also knew he had not slept because something had happened at the South Harbor warehouses. She opened her portfolio. The fire department cleared Warehouse 9 at 5:30. The damage was limited to the loading office. Noah believes it was electrical, but he is checking the camera feeds. Roman moved toward his desk. Who was inside? 2 night supervisors and 4 drivers. No injuries. Bellini? No evidence of that. Evidence is often late. So are conclusions when you are tired. His eyes lifted to hers. Anyone else would have looked away. Avery turned a page. The Milwaukee delegation arrives tomorrow at 3. Alderman Pierce moved his meeting from 9 to 11. Your attorney wants 20 minutes before lunch. The Port Authority documents are waiting for your signature. Roman sat down, and Elena Avery stopped. It was a small pause, but Roman caught it. She called twice. "I saw. You did not answer. I was occupied." She left a message. "I heard it." Avery placed a yellow note beside his coffee. "Call your sister. Apologize first." Roman looked at the note. Then he looked at her. "You are becoming unusually comfortable giving me orders. You are becoming unusually comfortable ignoring good advice. Elena knows I am busy. Elena knows you use being busy when you do not want to admit you are wrong." The room went still. Outside, rain streaked down the windows in silver lines. Roman leaned back in his chair. "Do you speak to every employer this way? I have only had one employer reckless enough to require it." His mouth shifted slightly. Avery closed the portfolio and walked toward the door. She had almost reached it when Roman picked up his phone. "Leave the note," he said. Avery did not turn around. "I planned to." The door closed behind her. A moment later, through the glass, she saw Roman call his sister. That was how most victories happened with him. Quietly, without acknowledgement. At her desk, Avery removed her coat and turned on her computer. The executive floor had begun to wake around her. Assistants arrived with umbrellas and paper cups. Security officers changed shifts near the private elevators. Somewhere down the hall, a printer began humming. Within months, Avery understood that the company was only one layer of something larger. She learned which doors remained locked, which names were never written, and why powerful men waited outside Roman's office until she allowed them inside. Roman gave trust in pieces. Avery protected each one without asking for more. Her computer finished loading. A spreadsheet covered the screen. She had left it open at 1:53 that morning after reviewing the same numbers until they blurred. At the top of the page was the name Lakefront Strategic Holdings. Lakefront managed consulting payments and property research. Thousands of transactions passed through its accounts. One line had kept Avery awake. 2 payments, the same amount. $48,000, different authorization codes. The first code belonged to Roman. The second copied it, but one digit sat in the wrong sequence. Avery enlarged the entry. The second payment had been approved at 10:52 p.m. the previous Thursday. She remembered Thursday clearly. Roman had flown to St. Louis for a private meeting with a transportation executive. Avery had traveled with him. A storm followed them north on the return flight, shaking the small plane hard enough to send a glass of water across the table. The satellite connection failed at 10:31. It did not return until after 11. At 10:52, Roman had been sitting across from her with his phone face down and his laptop closed. He had not approved the payment. Avery opened the authorization history and compared the code to another transaction. Then another. A pattern emerged slowly. One payment during St. Louis, one during Detroit, one during Washington, one during New York. Each transaction happened while Roman was away from Chicago. Each used a slightly altered version of his authorization. Each disappeared beneath legitimate consulting fees before the end of the week. Avery leaned closer to the screen. It was not the amount that bothered her. Roman's companies moved larger sums every hour. It was the timing. Someone did not simply want money, someone wanted Roman's absence recorded. She opened his travel calendar, then the Lakefront archive. A password request appeared. Avery entered her own credentials. Access denied. She tried again. The archive opened. Avery stared at the screen. Her access should not have worked. Lakefront files were restricted to Roman, his legal counsel, and 3 senior advisors. A small chill moved along her arms. She checked the permission history. Her credentials had been added 6 days earlier. No request had come through her office. No authorization form existed. Someone had given her access without telling her. Avery printed the changelog. The printer beside her desk clicked softly, then released a single sheet. 3 names appeared repeatedly in the archive history. Wesley Kane, Patrick Doyle, Samuel Price. Patrick Doyle ran construction and had survived 2 federal investigations. Samuel Price was Roman's careful, expensive corporate attorney. Wesley Kane had known Roman since Roman was 19. He attended Callahan family dinners. He had stood beside Roman at his father's funeral. He was the only man in the organization who sometimes called Roman by the childhood nickname everyone else had forgotten. Any of them could have entered Lakefront. Any of them could have approved the payments. Avery heard footsteps approaching. She placed her scheduling binder over the printed log. Wesley stopped at the edge of her desk. His navy suit was immaculate. Rain glistened across the shoulders of his coat, but his silver hair remained perfectly arranged. He carried no briefcase, only a phone and a pair of leather gloves. Another early morning, he asked. Roman considers sleep a character flaw. Wesley smiled. You work too hard for a man who rarely says thank you. He says it, usually by not firing people. The joke sounded different after it left her mouth. Wesley's eyes moved toward the binder covering the paper. Only for a second. Avery noticed. His smile did not change. Is everything all right, scheduling? Scheduling kept you here until 2 this morning? Avery met his gaze. You know, when I left, I know almost everything that happens on this floor. The answer could have been harmless. It did not feel harmless. Wesley slid his gloves into one pocket. Be careful, Avery. With what curiosity? He looked toward Roman's office. It is expensive in this building. So is incompetence. For the first time, the warmth left Wesley's face. Then it returned. Roman has a talent for choosing fearless employees, only because the fearful ones quit. Wesley gave a quiet laugh and walked toward the private elevators. Avery waited until the doors closed. Then she lifted the binder. The printed access log seemed heavier than paper. Her phone vibrated. A message from Roman. "Elena says you are interfering in family matters," Avery typed back. "She called you back." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. A new message arrived. "Yes." Avery smiled despite the pressure building behind her ribs. She placed the phone down and returned to the lakefront archive. Avery searched the supporting documents. One invoice referenced a hotel in St. Louis. Another listed an airport service company near Detroit. A third contained a meeting room number at a Washington hotel. Avery opened Roman's travel calendar again. The locations matched. Not exactly, but closely enough. The St. Louis invoice was processed on the night Roman met a transportation executive at a hotel 2 blocks away. The Detroit payment occurred hours before Roman used a private hangar at Willow Run Airport. The Washington payment appeared the same day he attended a closed meeting with a senator. Avery's fingertips grew cold. Someone was not merely stealing money. The payments were connected to Roman's movements. She needed to tell him. She rose from her desk, the printed log in one hand, and looked through the glass wall of his office. Roman was no longer alone. Patrick Doyle sat in front of the desk. Samuel Price stood near the windows. Wesley had returned and was pouring himself coffee from the side table. All 3 names from the archive were in the room. Roman looked toward Avery. For a moment their eyes met through the glass. He lifted one brow silently, asking what she needed. Avery looked at the 3 men around him. Then she lowered the paper. Not here. Roman watched her for another second. Avery tapped 2 fingers against the folder in her hand, their private signal for something that required his attention. Roman gave a small nod. She returned to her desk. The meeting lasted longer than expected. Every time the door opened, one of the 3 men remained inside. Avery could not tell Roman what she had found without warning the person responsible. She began building a private record. She copied the lakefront transactions into a separate file. She added Roman's travel times, flight logs, meeting locations, and communication outages. She marked every point where the authorization could not have come from him. The evidence was incomplete. It showed that someone close to Roman had used his absence. It did not show who. Avery checked the system permissions again. Her access had been added by an administrative account registered to internal security. Only 2 people could authorize that account: Noah Briggs, Wesley Kane. Noah was still in Roman's office. Wesley sat beside him. Avery's pulse quickened. She opened the server history. The administrative request had been submitted at 1:06 a.m. 6 days earlier. At that hour, Noah had been with Roman at a charity event in River North. Avery knew because she had handled the transportation changes after a protest blocked the main entrance. Wesley had left the event at midnight. The file did not prove he used the account. It only placed him outside Roman's sight. Avery reached for her phone. She could call Roman's private number and ask him to leave the room. But if Wesley had access to internal communications, he could see the call. If the wrong person realized she had identified the pattern, the files could disappear before Roman returned to his desk. She needed a copy outside the system. Avery removed a small encrypted drive from the locked drawer beneath her keyboard. Roman had given it to her 18 months earlier after a fire destroyed records at a warehouse. Anything important exists in 2 places, he had told her. She inserted the drive. The transfer began. 30%, 46, 59. The office around her continued moving. Phones rang. An assistant carried documents toward the elevators. Rain tapped the windows. Through the glass, Roman stood at the head of his desk while Wesley spoke. Roman's attention remained on him, but one hand touched the edge of his watch. Something bothered him. Avery knew the movement as clearly as a spoken sentence. 74%. Wesley turned slightly. His eyes found Avery through the glass. She lowered her gaze to the screen. 88%. The progress bar froze. Avery stopped breathing. Then it moved again. 100%. Transfer complete. She removed the drive and slipped it into the inside pocket of her bag. Next, she opened the secure archive room through the internal system and requested the original paper records connected to the lakefront payments. A green approval symbol appeared beside her name. The permission still worked. That made the unease inside her deepen. Someone wanted her to enter that archive. The thought followed her down the private corridor. The archive room sat behind two steel doors near the executive conference suites. Avery used her card at the first panel. The light turned green. At the second door, a scanner read her palm. The lock released. Cool air met her as she stepped inside. Rows of locked cabinets filled the narrow room. White ceiling lights reflected against the metal. No windows, no sound except the low hum of the ventilation system. Avery found the lakefront section. The paper files were thinner than expected. 4 payment approvals, 3 travel invoices, 1 security routing report. She opened the final document. It contained a map of Roman's planned arrival at Navy Pier that evening. His vehicle route, the service entrance, the number of security officers assigned to him. A handwritten time appeared in the margin. 8:40. Avery stared at it. The charity dinner at Navy Pier had not been announced publicly. Only Roman's inner circle knew he would attend. Avery had arranged the arrival herself. Someone had placed his private route inside a financial archive. Her heart began beating harder. She photographed each page with a secure application, then removed the originals from the folder. If the wrong person controlled the digital system, the paper copies might be the only proof that remained. Avery placed the documents inside her portfolio and returned to her desk. Roman's office door opened. Patrick Doyle left first. Samuel Price followed. Wesley remained with Roman for another minute before stepping into the hall. He adjusted one cuff as he approached Avery. Roman will be free in 10 minutes. Thank you. Wesley stopped. His eyes rested on the portfolio beside her hand. Did you find what you were looking for? Avery kept her expression neutral. I usually do. A faint smile touched his mouth. That is what worries people about you. He walked away. Avery watched him enter the elevator. The doors closed. She stood immediately and headed toward Roman's office. Before she reached it, her computer screen went black. The lights on her desk phone disappeared. A soft click sounded from the security panel near the elevators. Avery stopped. She pulled her card from her pocket and pressed it to the nearest reader. Red light. Access denied. The executive floor grew strangely quiet. 2 security officers stepped out of the service corridor. Neither was Noah. Behind them stood Wesley Kane. He held a narrow gray folder against his chest. Avery's full name was printed across the cover. Wesley looked at her with calm regret, as if they were both witnessing an unfortunate event neither of them could prevent. Roman wants to see you, he said. Avery looked through the glass wall. Roman stood inside the conference room at the end of the hall. Patrick Doyle and Samuel Price were already seated. 3 other senior men had joined them. 6 men around the black walnut table. The same men who had access to Roman's roots, businesses, and secrets. Wesley moved aside and gestured toward the conference room. Avery picked up her bag. The encrypted drive pressed against the leather from inside. As she walked toward Roman, she understood with terrible clarity that the person behind Lakefront had not merely discovered her investigation. He had expected it. The conference room door opened. Roman looked at the gray folder in Wesley's hand, then at Avery. She stepped inside. The door closed behind her. 20 minutes after the conference room door closed behind Avery, she stepped out of Callahan Tower carrying everything she owned in one leather bag. No box, no farewell. No chance to return to her desk. The rain had grown heavier, turning the sidewalks along Wacker Drive into sheets of black glass. Wind moved between the buildings and pulled at the collar of her coat. Behind her, Callahan Tower rose into the gray sky, 46 floors of steel, stone, and power. For 3 years, Avery had entered that building before sunrise and left long after the city lights came on. Now the security guards near the lobby doors refused to meet her eyes. She walked east without looking back. Roman's final words followed her into the rain. Security will escort you downstairs. Not an apology, not a question, not even the private conversation she had asked for. A command. Avery reached the first intersection and waited beneath the red light. Her hand remained inside her bag wrapped around the encrypted drive. The documents were still there. The lakefront payments, the travel records, the route to Navy Pier, the time written beside Roman's arrival. 8:40. She had tried to protect him. He had treated her like the danger. The light changed. Avery crossed the street. That was when she noticed the black Cadillac. It sat 2 car lengths behind a delivery truck, its windows dark beneath the rain. She could not see the driver. The vehicle might have been waiting for traffic. Avery kept walking. At the next corner, she turned south. The Cadillac turned after her. She continued past a pharmacy, a dry cleaner, and a coffee shop crowded with office workers, avoiding the weather. Her pace remained steady, though every instinct urged her to run. Running would confirm she had seen them. Running would make the people inside the car act faster. Avery crossed again without waiting for the signal. A horn sounded. The Cadillac slowed at the light. She entered the coffee shop. Warm air and the smell of roasted beans closed around her. Every table was occupied. Men in wetsuits stood in line while a woman near the window argued quietly into her phone. Avery moved to the counter. "Small coffee," she said. "Room for cream, no." She did not want coffee. She wanted the window. After paying, she stepped aside and watched the street through the reflection in the glass display case. The Cadillac passed the intersection. Avery released a breath. Then the brake lights glowed. The vehicle stopped half a block away. Her coffee arrived. She took it without drinking and moved toward a narrow hall near the restrooms. A young employee was carrying a box through a door marked "Staff Only." "Is there another exit?" Avery asked. The employee frowned. "This is not for customers." Avery glanced toward the front window. The Cadillac had not moved. "My former boyfriend is outside." The employee looked past her. "He has been following me since I left work." The young man's expression changed. He opened the door wider. "Go through the kitchen. The alley door is on the left. Thank you." Avery entered before anyone could reconsider. She moved past a sink, a row of metal shelves, and 2 cooks who barely looked at her. At the end of the kitchen, she pushed through a heavy door and stepped into a narrow alley filled with dumpsters and running water. The rain struck her face. She turned west and walked quickly. Her phone vibrated inside her bag. Roman. She stopped beneath the edge of a fire escape. His name remained on the screen. For 1 second, she imagined answering. She imagined hearing the change in his voice when he realized she was being followed. She imagined him ordering Noah to find her. She imagined allowing Roman to save her from a danger she had entered because of him. Avery ended the call. "He chose the folder," she whispered. She slipped the phone into her pocket and continued toward State Street. Inside Callahan Tower, Roman remained seated at the head of the conference table long after Avery left. No one spoke first. Her security card rested beside the gray folder. A small scratch marked one corner caused by the time she dropped it outside an elevator and caught it beneath her heel. Roman remembered the moment. Avery had laughed. He had told her the card was replaceable. She had said some things worked better after they carried damage. Wesley closed the folder. "You made the right decision." Roman looked at him. Wesley's expression was careful and sympathetic. No satisfaction, no relief. Nothing Roman could accuse. Patrick Doyle cleared his throat. "The lakefront breach needs to be contained before tonight." Roman's eyes remained on Avery's card. Contained how change every access code, review her communications, search her apartment. Roman looked up. The table became quiet again. Patrick shifted in his chair. "It is standard procedure." Roman had built much of his life around procedures. Rules prevented panic. Systems prevented betrayal. Evidence prevented emotion from turning into weakness. Yet something about the suggestion made his jaw tighten. "No one enters her apartment without my authorization." Wesley folded his hands. "If she sent information outside the organization, time matters." She did not admit sending anything. She admitted entering the archive and removing documents. Roman's gaze moved to him. "She also said someone in this room was a traitor." Samuel Price, the attorney, leaned forward. An accusation made without evidence. Roman looked at the gray folder. Evidence. The word felt heavier than it had 20 minutes earlier. He dismissed the meeting and returned to his office. A junior assistant followed him carrying a tablet. "Mr. Callahan, your attorney, is waiting for the 9:30 call." "I do not have a 9:30 call." The assistant stopped. "It is on the shared calendar." Roman turned. Avery moved it yesterday. I was not informed. Roman stared at him for one silent second. The assistant lowered his eyes. Find out what time it was moved to. Yes, sir. Roman entered his office. The coffee Avery had placed on his desk was still warm. He picked it up, drank, and realized it was nearly empty. Someone knocked. Another assistant entered, carrying a fresh cup. I thought you might need this. Roman took one sip. Cream, 2 sugars. He set it down. Where is Avery's calendar? The assistant glanced toward the empty desk outside the glass wall. I believe her computer access was disabled. I asked for her calendar. The assistant hurried away. Roman remained standing. Through the glass, Avery's chair sat pushed beneath her desk. Her yellow note was still attached to his monitor. Call Elena. Apologize first. He looked away. The assistant returned, holding a black leather planner. This was beneath her keyboard. Roman took it. Avery used 3 colors: blue for confirmed appointments, black for internal matters, red for anything she believed required his personal attention. Thursday's page contained several ordinary notes: St. Louis, flight departure, transportation executive, storm warning. Near the bottom of the page, one name had been circled 3 times in red: Lakefront. Beneath it, Avery had written a time: 10:52 p.m. Then one word: impossible. Roman stared at the page. The room seemed to narrow around him. He returned to the conference table and opened the gray security folder. The first report showed Avery's account entering the Lakefront archive at 10:52 p.m. the previous Thursday. Roman read the line twice. The memory came back with perfect clarity, the plane shaking over Lake Michigan. Avery seated across from him, one hand gripping the edge of the table. The overhead lights flickering, the pilot announcing that the satellite connection had failed. Avery had closed her laptop before the turbulence began. Roman had watched her place it in the leather case beside her seat. At 10:52, Avery had been thousands of feet above the ground with him. She had not been in Chicago. She had not been connected to Callahan Tower. Roman stood. His chair rolled backward and struck the wall. The assistant outside looked up. Bring me Wesley Kane. The young man reached for the phone. Roman's voice hardened. Now, the assistant called security. A pause followed. His expression changed. Mr. Kane left the building. Went approximately 25 minutes ago. Where did he go? No destination was recorded. Roman became still. Find Noah. Avery reached the entrance to the pedway beneath a hotel lobby. She descended the stairs and disappeared below street level. The underground passages were crowded with office workers, tourists, and people carrying umbrellas that dripped across the tile. Fluorescent lights replaced the gray sky. The sound of rain faded behind concrete. Avery took out her phone. 3 missed calls from Roman. 1 from an unknown number. No messages. Her company access had disappeared. Email, shared drives, internal security, and private calendars were gone. The phone itself still worked. So did the secure application connected to the drive. Avery entered a crowded food court and chose a table where she could see both entrances. She placed her bag between her feet and opened the application. The Lakefront files appeared. She began comparing them again. The first payment corresponded with St. Louis, the second with Detroit, the third with Washington, the fourth with New York. Avery opened the supporting invoices one by one: a hotel service charge, a private flight maintenance bill, a consulting fee, a transportation deposit. None of them looked important alone. Together they formed a map. Each payment was processed shortly before information about Roman's movements changed hands. A hotel where he met a union executive, a private hangar outside Detroit, a service entrance beneath a Washington office building, a vehicle route from a New York airport. Avery opened the Navy Pier document. Roman was scheduled to attend the charity dinner that evening. His arrival route had changed 2 days earlier because of construction along Grand Avenue. Avery had selected the new route herself. Only 5 people knew: Roman, Avery, Noah, Wesley. The driver assigned to Roman's vehicle, the document contained the exact route, the service entrance, the number of security officers: 8:40. Avery enlarged the handwritten time. Her skin went cold. The Lakefront payments were not simply stolen money, they were confirmations. Someone had been selling Roman's locations. The final document was not a record of what had already happened. It was a plan. Avery opened a secure message and attached the files. Roman's private address appeared in the recipient line. Her thumb hovered over send. If Wesley had access to internal monitoring, he might see the transmission. He might trace her location. He might destroy the receiving account before Roman opened it. Avery deleted the message. She needed another way. At Callahan Tower, Noah Briggs entered Roman's office and closed the door behind him. Roman placed the security report on the desk. This timestamp is false. Noah read the line. His face changed. You were both on the St. Louis flight? Yes. The plane had no connection. Yes. Noah turned the page. Who prepared this report, Wesley? Noah looked toward the empty desk outside. Roman watched him understand. Lock the lakefront system, Roman said. No one enters, no one deletes anything. Noah called his team. Within minutes, the complete access history appeared on Roman's screen. Avery's credentials had been added 6 days earlier. The suspicious lakefront activity had begun 5 months before that. Roman read the dates in silence. Avery's account could not have started the leak. It had been attached after the crime began. Someone had placed her name inside an existing pattern. Noah opened the administrative request. Internal security account. Who had access, you, me, and Wesley? Roman looked at him. Where were you when this request was entered? Noah checked the time. 1 in the morning last Tuesday. You were with me at the charity event. I drove you home at 1:30. Roman's hand closed around the edge of the desk. Wesley had left before midnight. Noah examined another page. There is more. He turned the screen. The Lakefront archive recorded downloads from Wesley's private terminal on 4 nights matching Roman's travel schedule. St. Louis, Detroit, Washington, New York. The evidence had been visible. Roman had never looked because Wesley had never given him a reason to look. Avery had, and Roman had fired her. Find her, Roman said. Noah reached for his phone. Roman added, do not bring her back unless she agrees. Noah paused. That order cost Roman more than he allowed his face to show. Protect her first. Noah nodded. Understood. Roman picked up his phone and called Avery again. The call rang until it ended. He typed a message. The evidence was false. Call me. He stared at the words. They looked weak, incomplete. 4 hours earlier, Avery had asked for 10 minutes. He had not given her one. Roman wrote again. I was wrong. Tell me where you are, please. He sent it. Across the city, Avery stood beneath the great vaulted ceiling of Union Station. Announcements echoed above the crowd. Shoes struck marble. Travelers hurried toward departure boards carrying luggage, coffee, and wet coats. Her phone vibrated. She read Roman's first message, then the second. Please. The word pulled at something she had spent the last hour holding together. Roman did not say please. He issued instructions. He offered choices that were not truly choices. He made the world move around him and called it order. Avery read the message again. For one dangerous second she wanted to answer. She wanted to hear him say he believed her. She wanted those words to erase the conference room, the gray folder, and the sound of her security card touching the table. Then she saw a face reflected in the dark screen. Wesley Kane stood near the information board 40 feet behind her. His navy coat was damp from the rain. His silver hair was still perfectly arranged. He looked at Avery, then at the bag hanging from her shoulder, and smiled. Wesley remained near the information board as travelers moved between them. Avery did not turn around. She kept her eyes on his reflection in the dark screen of her phone. Roman's message was still open. I was wrong. Tell me where you are, please. The word had arrived too late to comfort her, but perhaps not too late to keep her alive. Her phone vibrated again. Roman was calling. Wesley took one step forward. Avery answered. Where are you? Roman asked. There was no greeting, no command disguised as concern. His voice sounded stripped down to something rawer than urgency. Union Station. Which entrance near the information board? Are you alone? Avery watched Wesley begin walking toward her. His pace was unhurried. His hands remained visible at his sides. He looked like a businessman crossing the station to greet a colleague. Not anymore. Roman went silent for half a second. Who is there? Avery turned. Wesley stopped 10 feet away. Rain darkened the shoulders of his navy coat. Around them, the station continued moving. A child pulled a red suitcase behind his mother. A man carried 2 coffees toward the platforms. A woman laughed into her phone. No one saw a threat. No one knew Avery's hand had begun to shake. "Wesley," she said. Roman's breathing changed. "Stay where people can see you. I am surrounded by people. Noah is on his way." How far? Roman spoke to someone away from the phone. 4 minutes. Avery looked at Wesley. 4 minutes feels optimistic. Wesley's gaze dropped to the leather bag against her hip. "You should not have taken those files." Avery held the phone close enough for Roman to hear every word. "You should not have put my name on them." Wesley's expression remained calm. "I was trying to contain a problem. By turning me into the problem, you were supposed to leave the building, go home, and accept that your time with Roman was over." His eyes moved briefly toward her phone. "Instead, you started running. I was followed. You were being observed." Avery gave a quiet, humorless laugh. "That sounds so much better." Wesley stepped closer. Avery did not move. Roman's voice came through the phone. "Do not let him take you anywhere." Wesley heard him. His mouth curved slightly. "You finally called her back." Roman did not respond to him. "Avery, listen to me." "I am listening. Keep him talking." Wesley studied her face. "He is using you again." Avery's grip tightened around the phone. "He thinks if he tells you what to do, he can pretend he still controls the situation." Roman's voice hardened. "Wesley." Wesley looked at the phone. "There you are." Avery raised it slightly. "He can hear you." "Good." The warmth disappeared from Wesley's expression. Perhaps it is time Roman heard something without 6 men around him telling him what he wants to believe. Avery glanced toward the Adams Street entrance. Noah was not there. Not yet. Wesley followed her gaze. "You are waiting for security. I am waiting for witnesses. There are hundreds." "Exactly." Wesley looked around the station. The crowd protected Avery, but it also trapped her. One sudden movement could cause panic. One weapon could turn the marble hall into chaos. He seemed to understand that she had reached the same conclusion. "Give me the drive," he said. "No. Place it on the information counter, then walk away. And you disappear, I survive." What happens to Roman? Wesley's eyes sharpened. "That depends on whether he is intelligent enough to cancel tonight." Avery felt the cold move through her again. "You knew about Navy Pier. I know about everything Roman does." Roman said nothing on the phone. His silence was different now, focused. Avery kept her eyes on Wesley. The lakefront payments were not stolen money. No, they were confirmations. Wesley tilted his head. "You always were quick. Every payment matched one of Roman's trips. Yes, St. Louis, Detroit, Washington, New York." Wesley said nothing. "You sold his locations. I sold access." To the Bellinis, a faint smile touched his mouth. "Do not make the mistake of believing there is only one buyer in Chicago." Avery felt her pulse in her throat. Roman had spent years building walls around his organization. Wesley had stood inside those walls, quietly opening doors. "How long?" she asked. Wesley looked almost thoughtful. "Long enough to understand how little loyalty is worth when the wrong man inherits everything." Roman's voice came through the phone. "My father trusted you." Wesley's attention shifted toward the device. "Your father used me. He treated you like family. Family is the word powerful men use when they want devotion without equality." Avery watched the composure in Wesley's face begin to crack, only slightly. But it was there. Resentment, not fear, not desperation, something older. "You stood beside him for 20 years, Roman said. "And when he died, he gave you the city. He gave me responsibility. He gave you power." Wesley's jaw tightened. "He gave a 30-year-old son everything men twice his age had built. You stayed. I believed you might become worthy of it." Roman's response was quiet. "And when I did not, you became exactly what your father prepared you to become. Controlled, suspicious, surrounded by people too frightened to challenge you." Avery looked at Wesley. "You challenged him, I advised him. You sold him." Wesley's eyes returned to her. "I corrected an imbalance." With an assassination, a woman passing nearby looked toward them. Wesley lowered his voice. "You should choose your words carefully." "Why?" "Because the truth sounds uglier in public." His face hardened. Roman heard every word. Avery could feel his restraint through the silence on the line. Wesley moved one step closer. "Roman was never supposed to discover Lakefront. Then you should have hidden it better." "I did. You gave me access." "Yes, The admission came so calmly that Avery almost missed its weight. You added my credentials. I needed a path that would lead away from me. Why me? Wesley looked at her for a long moment. Because Roman trusted you. Avery felt something tighten inside her chest. Wesley continued, Patrick Doyle has enemies. Samuel Price has secrets. Either man could have denied the accusation and Roman would have investigated, but not me. No. Why, Wesley looked toward the phone again. Because your betrayal would hurt him. Roman remained silent. Wesley's voice softened. That was the weakness. Avery could hear the station announcements above them, but the words blurred into noise. He trusted you differently, Wesley said. Not as an employee, not as an advisor. You were the person he allowed close enough to see when he was tired, angry, afraid. Roman's voice came low through the phone. That is enough. Wesley ignored him. I knew the moment Roman believed you had chosen someone else, he would stop thinking like a leader. Avery stared at him. You built the evidence around his fear. I built it around his nature. Roman spoke again. He was right. The words surprised both of them. Wesley's eyes narrowed. Roman continued. I saw the folder and I reacted exactly as he expected. Avery closed her eyes for 1 second. An admission was not the same as repair. But it mattered that Roman had not tried to hide behind the evidence. Wesley gave a quiet laugh. Self-awareness arrived quickly. Not quickly enough. No. Avery opened her eyes. Wesley stood closer now. Less than 8 feet separated them. Give me the drive, he said. No, the files no longer matter. Then you would not be here. They matter to people who dislike uncertainty. People like you. People more dangerous than me. Avery studied him. The answer was meant to frighten her. It did. She refused to show it. What happens if I give it to you? You leave Chicago. I have a life here. You had a life built around Roman Callahan. Wesley glanced at her bag. That life ended this morning. The words found the wound he intended them to find. Avery saw the conference room again. Roman's hand over the gray folder. Her security card on the table. His voice saying she was fired. Wesley noticed the change in her face. You asked him to believe you, he said. He did not. Roman inhaled through the phone. Avery. She did not answer. Wesley stepped closer. You protected him for 3 years and he erased you in less than 3 minutes. Avery looked down at the marble floor. For half a second, pain pressed against her resolve. Then Roman spoke. I made a mistake. His voice was clear enough for Wesley to hear. A serious one. Avery lifted her gaze. Wesley's expression changed. Roman continued. She did not betray me. You did not know that when it mattered, Wesley said. No. Roman did not defend himself. The absence of an excuse made the admission heavier. Wesley looked at Avery. Do you hear that he is agreeing because he needs something from you? Roman answered before she could. I need her alive. Of course you do. I need nothing from her. The words settled between them. Roman's voice lowered. She owes me nothing. Avery's throat tightened. Wesley's eyes moved toward the main entrance. Avery followed his gaze. 2 men in dark coats had entered the station. Noah Briggs walked several feet ahead of the second man. His eyes scanned the crowd with careful precision. Relief moved through Avery so quickly that her knees almost weakened. Wesley saw Noah. His face did not show fear. It showed calculation. He looked toward the platforms, then the exits measuring distance. Noah saw Avery, then Wesley. His hand moved beneath his coat. Wesley stepped backward. Avery expected Noah to chase him. He did not. Noah walked directly toward her. Protect her first. Roman had chosen correctly this time. Wesley disappeared behind a group of travelers moving toward the south platforms. The second security man changed direction and followed him at a distance. Noah stopped several feet from Avery. Ms. Sloan. She had heard him call her Avery hundreds of times. The formality was deliberate. He was giving her distance. Are you hurt? No. Did he touch you? No. Noah nodded once. I need to move you somewhere secure. Avery looked at her phone. Roman was still connected. Is Wesley gone? Roman asked. Noah is here. Give him the drive. Avery looked at Noah. The encrypted device inside her bag had become the only proof of what had happened. Roman's people had already taken her access, her position, and her reputation. Now he wanted the evidence too. Why, she asked. Roman did not answer immediately. Because Wesley may have people watching the station, that does not answer the question. Noah remained still. Roman's voice softened. Because you should not have to carry it alone. Avery looked at the crowd where Wesley had disappeared. What will Noah do with it? Create secure copies outside Callahan Tower. One will go to Samuel Price, one to an independent attorney, one to the authorities handling the Bellini investigation. Avery looked at Noah. Is that true? Yes, he said. If Roman changes his mind, he cannot remove the external copies once they are delivered. Roman heard the question. He did not object. Avery reached into her bag and removed the drive. For a moment she held it between two fingers. Then she gave it to Noah. He placed it inside a secure pouch beneath his coat. I have a car outside, he said. Avery looked toward the entrance. The black Cadillac was no longer visible. Roman spoke through the phone. Come back to the tower. Avery closed her eyes. That morning she would have obeyed without hesitation. She would have returned to his office, set down his coffee, and helped him dismantle the betrayal around them. But she could still hear the conference room door closing. She could still see 6 men watching as Roman chose a report over her word. No. Silence answered her. Avery, the Bellinis know your name. Noah can take me somewhere safe. I need to see you. You need the evidence. You have it. That is not what I said. No, Roman, it is what you always mean. His breathing changed. Noah turned his attention toward the crowd, giving her the illusion of privacy. Roman's voice became quieter. Please come back. There it was again. Please. The word Roman rarely used because needing another person gave them power. 4 hours earlier it would have broken through every defense she had. Now it only reminded her that he had found humility after destroying the thing he wanted to save. I was trying to protect you, Avery said. I know. You did not ask one private question. I know. You sent me into the street with the evidence your enemy needed. I know. Each answer came without resistance. That made them harder to hear. Roman said her name. Avery. She looked up at the vaulted ceiling. Light from the high windows fell across the station floor. Hundreds of people continued moving around her, each carrying a destination that belonged only to them. For 3 years, every destination in Avery's life had begun with Roman. His meetings, his emergencies, his enemies, his needs. I am not coming back to the tower, she said. Roman did not speak. Noah can protect me without taking me there. I can protect you. You had that chance this morning. The words left her quietly. They cut deeper because she did not raise her voice. Roman absorbed them in silence. Avery looked at Noah. Where can you take me? There is a hotel near the Gold Coast. Callahan Holdings has no ownership interest. It is registered under an outside security firm. Will Roman know the room? Noah glanced at the phone. Only if you authorize it. Avery waited. Roman said, do what she asks. No argument, no command, no attempt to negotiate. Avery felt the first small shift in something she did not yet trust. She lifted the phone again. Do not come looking for me. Roman's answer took several seconds. All right. She almost believed him. Almost. Avery ended the call. Noah guided her toward the Adams Street exit without touching her. The second security man remained somewhere inside the station following Wesley's path. Outside, the rain had softened to a cold mist. A dark sedan waited near the curb. Not the Cadillac. Noah opened the rear door. Avery stopped before getting inside. If Wesley escapes, Roman will go to Navy Pier. No. How do you know Mr. Callahan canceled the appearance before I reached the station? Avery looked at him. He believed the files. He believed you. The answer arrived too late to feel like victory. She entered the car. At Callahan Tower, Roman stood beside Avery's empty desk with the phone still pressed to his ear. The call had ended. He remained there anyway. Her chair was pushed in perfectly. Her calendar lay open beside the keyboard. The yellow note about Elena still clung to his monitor. Through the glass walls, Chicago spread beneath him. A city of wet rooftops, dark water, and moving lights. For years, people had obeyed Roman because they feared the consequences of refusing. Avery had obeyed because she trusted him. He had treated those two things as if they were the same. His computer sounded. A secure message from Noah appeared. First copy received. Roman opened the attached file. Avery's name appeared at the top. Below it were pages of analysis. Every suspicious lakefront payment, every altered authorization code, every travel schedule, every time Roman had been outside Chicago when someone used his identity. Avery had marked uncertainty where the evidence remained incomplete. She had separated suspicion from fact. She had listed Patrick Doyle, Samuel Price, and Wesley Kane as possible suspects without accusing any of them. She had done everything Roman should have done before making a decision. He continued reading. The final pages contained the Navy pier route, the security entrance, the arrival time. Avery had circled 8:40 and written beside it, possible attack window, cancel appearance, verify driver and route. Roman's hand tightened around the mouse. A final note appeared at the bottom of the document. It was not addressed to security. It was not written for an attorney. It was written for whoever found the file after her. If something happens before I can explain this, make sure Roman knows I never betrayed him. Roman read the sentence once. Then again, Avery had believed she might be injured or killed before she could clear her name. Even then, her final concern had been that he knew the truth. Roman sat down in her chair. It was smaller than his. The seat was adjusted for her height. A faint trace of her perfume remained near the collar of the coat she had not been allowed to retrieve. For the first time that day, Roman allowed himself to understand the full weight of what he had done. He had not removed a threat from his organization. He had cast out the one person who had recognized the threat before anyone else. He had not protected his empire. He had protected his pride, and somewhere in Chicago, the woman who had risked everything to save him no longer trusted him enough to reveal where she would sleep. The sedan moved north through Chicago while rain slipped across the windows in thin silver lines. Avery sat in the back seat with both hands resting in her lap. Noah occupied the front passenger seat. He spoke quietly into his phone, giving short instructions to men Avery could not see. He never said Roman's name. He did not need to. Every road change, every security update, every pause belonged to him. Avery watched the city move past the glass, Michigan Avenue, the river, rows of wet buildings fading into the afternoon mist. For 3 years she had moved through Chicago according to Roman's schedule. She knew which streets his driver avoided, which intersections were vulnerable, and which buildings belonged to men who smiled at Roman in public and cursed him in private. Now she did not know where they were taking her. That should have frightened her. Instead, the absence of responsibility felt almost unreal. No calls to answer, no meetings to move, no disaster waiting for her to prevent it. Her phone rested beside her on the leather seat. The screen remained dark. Roman had not called again. Avery told herself that was what she wanted. The tightness in her chest refused to agree. The car turned onto a quieter street near the Gold Coast and entered the underground garage of a hotel hidden behind an older stone building. There was no Callahan name above the entrance, no private security logo, no familiar black cars waiting near the elevators. Noah led her through a service corridor and into a small private lobby. A woman behind the desk handed him a key card without asking for identification. "Room 1714, Noah said. "The reservation is under Allison Gray." Avery looked at him. Creative. It was not my idea. Roman number mine. That surprised her. Noah pressed the elevator button. Mr. Callahan prefers names with more authority. Avery almost smiled. The expression disappeared before the elevator arrived. Noah noticed anyway. He always noticed more than people gave him credit for. The room on the 17th floor faced west. Gray light filled the windows, softening the outlines of the buildings beyond them. A small table stood near the glass. 2 chairs, a narrow sofa, nothing expensive enough to suggest Roman had chosen it. Avery set her bag on the table. Noah checked the bedroom-bathroom windows and adjoining door. "There are 2 security officers in the lobby," he said. "One in the garage. Hotel security has been informed that no one comes to this floor without confirmation. Does Roman know the room number?" Avery looked at him. "You are telling the truth?" "Yes. Would you tell him if he ordered you?" Noah considered the question instead of answering quickly. "If there were an immediate threat to your life, yes. And if he simply wanted to see me, no." The answer came without hesitation. Avery looked toward the window. "Thank you." Noah walked to the door. "I need to return to the tower. One of my men will remain outside the room. I do not want anyone outside the door. Noah paused. The hallway camera is not enough. It will have to be. Avery. It was the first time he used her name that day. She turned. I spent 3 years inside Roman's world, she said. Every locked door came with another man standing outside it. I do not want to feel guarded right now. Noah studied her face. Then he nodded. The officer will stay near the elevator. That is far enough. If anything feels wrong, call me first. I thought Roman always came first. Not today. Noah left. The lock clicked behind him. Avery stood in the center of the room listening to the silence. No voices in the hall. No ringing phone. No Roman calling her name from behind a glass wall. She removed her wet coat and placed it over the back of a chair. Her hands began to tremble only after the fabric left her fingers. Until that moment, there had always been something else to do. Walk, watch the Cadillac, protect the drive, study the files, keep Wesley talking, trust Noah. Now there was nothing between Avery and the memory of the conference room. She crossed to the window and looked down. Yellow taxis moved along the street 17 floors below. Pedestrians passed beneath umbrellas. A man stood outside a bakery holding the door for a woman with a stroller. The city continued as though her life had not divided itself into before and after. Her phone vibrated. Roman. Avery watched his name remain on the screen. She did not answer. The call ended. A message appeared. Are you safe? Nothing else. No demand for her location. No instruction. Avery placed the phone face down on the table. Across the city, Roman sat inside Avery's chair and read every page of the lakefront analysis. The office outside had grown quiet. He had sent everyone away except Noah's communications team and Samuel Price. Patrick Doyle had been moved to a separate conference room until his access could be verified. Roman trusted no one now. That realization would once have comforted him. It did not. Samuel stood near the desk reading a printed copy of the payment records. The lakefront accounts are not controlled by one company, he said. The money moves through 3 consulting firms before reaching an offshore account. Who owns the firm's paper owners? 2 are dead. One lives in Arizona and claims he has never heard of them. Bellini, possibly. Roman looked at him. Possibly is not useful. It is honest. Samuel placed the papers down. Wesley understood the system. He knew which transactions would appear ordinary. He also knew which accounts we rarely reviewed because the amounts were too small. Roman turned toward the windows. He knew Avery would notice. Samuel said nothing. Roman faced him again. He added her access 6 days ago. He left the inconsistency where she would find it. He needed her to enter the archive. He needed me to believe she had. Samuel's expression remained careful. Roman, the report was convincing. Roman looked at him. Do not defend me. I am explaining why the room believed it. I did not fire the room. Samuel lowered his eyes. Roman returned to the records. 1 payment connected to St. Louis, 1 to Detroit, 1 to Washington, 1 to New York. Avery had marked each travel period in red. Her notes were exact, restrained, and free of accusation. She had been more careful with the truth than Roman had been with her life. Noah entered without knocking. Roman stood. Where is she safe? Where Noah did not answer. The silence drew every eye in the room. Roman's jaw tightened. I asked you a question. She asked me not to tell you. For one dangerous second, the old instinct rose inside Roman. Authority, pressure, the certainty that any refusal could be broken if he pushed hard enough. Then he remembered Avery at Union Station. You had that chance this morning. Roman looked away. Is she alone? Yes. Is someone nearby? Yes. Does she have what she needs? She has a room, food, and direct contact with me. Roman's hand closed around the back of Avery's chair. She needs more security. She refused it. Then convince her. No. Roman turned slowly. Noah stood without apology. Few men in Chicago would have refused Roman Callahan twice in the same conversation. Noah continued. She does not need another man deciding what she should accept for her own good. The words struck too close to the truth. Samuel looked down at the papers. Roman released the chair. Has she asked about me? No. The answer hurt more than Roman expected. He returned his attention to the file. Wesley. One of our men followed him out of Union Station. Wesley entered a parking structure near Canal Street and left in another vehicle. We lost him beneath lower whacker. Roman's expression hardened. Find every account he can access. We are already doing it. Freeze them. Some are outside our system. Then call the banks. Samuel stepped closer. If we move too quickly, he will know how much evidence we have. He already knows. We may lose the Bellini connection. Roman looked toward Avery's empty desk. We nearly lost Avery. The room became still. Roman turned back to Noah. Freeze everything. By 3:30, Wesley's access had been removed from Callahan Tower, the North Harbor shipping offices, the warehouse network, and every security system connected to Roman's organization. Samuel contacted outside counsel. Noah sent copies of Avery's files to 2 independent servers. The Navy Pier event was canceled. Roman's driver was questioned and cleared. Patrick Doyle's access history showed nothing unusual. Samuel's credentials had been copied twice without his knowledge. Every road led back to Wesley. Roman read the files himself. No delegation, no summaries, no one telling him what the evidence meant. Avery had cross-referenced months of travel schedules, invoices, access logs, and security changes. She had done it after midnight while still arranging Roman's meetings, answering his calls, and reminding him to speak to his sister. He found notes written in the margins. Verify before accusing. Check original source. Timing does not match. One line held his attention longer than the others. Do not assume access means guilt. Roman leaned back. The office seemed too large without her. He remembered a night 18 months earlier when he had fallen asleep at his desk after 2 days without rest. Avery found him before sunrise, removed the untouched bourbon from his hand, and canceled his first meeting. When Roman woke, he had been angry. You had no authority to change my schedule. You were unconscious. I was resting. You were drooling on a federal contract. He had stared at her. She had stared back. The meeting stayed canceled. Another memory followed. Elena had called after an argument with Roman. He refused to answer. Avery stood in his doorway with her arms folded. Family does not become less complicated because you ignore the phone. You are not paid to interfere with my family. Then stop making it interfere with your work. Roman called Elena. Avery had been right then. She had been right every time she warned him that anger and fear made him careless. 6 months earlier, Roman nearly destroyed a partnership because a man insulted him during a negotiation. Avery waited until the room cleared. You are allowed to be angry, she told him. You are not allowed to make permanent decisions because you are angry. He listened. When the permanent decision involved her, he forgot. Roman looked at his phone. Avery had not answered his call. He typed another message. I owe you an apology that cannot fit inside a message. He read it twice before sending. A minute later, he wrote again. I will not ask you to come back. I only need to know you are safe. He placed the phone beside Avery's calendar. Nothing happened. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Roman forced himself not to call. At the hotel, Avery sat beside the window with an untouched cup of coffee between her hands. Her phone vibrated twice. She read Roman's messages. The first tightened her throat. The second held her attention longer. I will not ask you to come back. Roman did not surrender control easily. Even his apologies usually sounded like negotiations. He would explain what happened until the explanation became a reason he should be forgiven. These messages contained no explanation. Avery typed 3 words. I am safe. Roman's reply arrived almost immediately. Thank you, nothing more. No request for the address. No demand that she answer a call. Avery set the phone down. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she remembered something she had told Roman months earlier after he dismissed a warehouse manager during an argument. One day you are going to push away the wrong person. Roman had looked amused. Are you volunteering? I am warning you. He had thought she was joking. Avery looked out at the rain. Perhaps she had thought so too. At 4:40, someone delivered food to the room. The hotel employee left the tray outside after calling from the lobby. Avery checked the hallway camera through the room's security screen before opening the door. No one else was there. She brought the tray inside but could not eat. Her body remained alert to every sound. The elevator bell, footsteps, doors opening, a cart rolling across carpet. Fear arrived in ordinary shapes. At 5:12, her phone rang. Noah. Avery answered immediately. What happened? We found a backup account connected to Wesley. She stood. What kind of account? An emergency security profile. It was created under another employee's name. Avery looked toward the door. What could he access? Vehicle records, temporary safe locations, some hotel reservations. Her breathing slowed. Does he know where I am? We cannot confirm it. That means yes. No, it means we are checking. Avery moved toward the window, then stopped herself. The glass offered no protection from anyone watching the building. Noah, I am sending hotel security upstairs. The elevator bell sounded in the hallway. Once, softly. Avery became still. Someone just reached the floor. Move away from the door. Footsteps crossed the carpet outside. Slow, unhurried. They passed one room, then another. Avery backed toward the desk. The footsteps stopped outside 1714. She held her breath. 3 quiet knocks followed. Noah's voice came through the phone. Avery, do not open that door. A familiar voice spoke from the hallway. Avery, Wesley. Her skin went cold. He sounded calm, almost patient, as if they had unfinished business after a meeting. I know you can hear me, he said. Avery looked at the lock, a deadbolt, a chain, a solid wooden door. All of them suddenly felt decorative. Noah, where is security coming from the elevator now? Avery heard nothing outside except Wesley's breathing. There is nothing left to discuss, she said loudly. Silence followed. Then Wesley answered. Roman has the files. Yes. Then you understand what happens now. Avery moved farther from the door. What happens now is not my problem. Wesley laughed quietly. You really believe Roman Callahan will allow you to leave his world? The question reached deeper than she wanted. Yesterday, Avery would have known the answer. Roman did not release what he considered his responsibility. He protected. He controlled. Sometimes the difference existed only in his mind. He already did, Avery said. No, he sent you somewhere he could retrieve you later. He does not know where I am. A pause. Wesley's voice changed slightly. You believe that Avery looked at the phone? Noah said nothing. She understood why. Wesley wanted her to doubt Roman. He had already used that wound once. You involved me when you used my name, Avery said. I never wanted you harmed. You placed my identity inside an assassination plan. You were supposed to leave the building. And then what? Go home, find another job, disappear from his life? Why would that matter to you? Wesley remained silent. Avery continued. You did not only need Roman to suspect me, you needed him to remove me. You noticed too much. No, I made him notice. That was the problem. Voices sounded near the elevator. Controlled, professional. Wesley heard them. Avery heard the shift in his breathing. Noah spoke through the phone. Stay where you are. A man outside called Wesley's name. Another voice instructed him to place his hands where they could be seen. For several seconds, the hallway became a blur of movement. A sharp impact struck the wall. Someone cursed. Then came the sound of metal closing. Avery remained near the desk. Noah stayed on the line. You are safe. She did not answer. A minute later, someone knocked. Avery, it is Noah. She walked to the door but did not open it. Where is Wesley under supervision? What does that mean he is being taken downstairs? Samuel's office has contacted the authorities involved in the Bellini investigation. Is he armed? He had a knife and a second phone. Avery closed her eyes. What was he planning to do? We do not know. They both knew that was not true. They simply did not know which version of violence Wesley had chosen. Avery looked through the peephole. Noah stood alone several feet from the door. 2 hotel security officers waited near the elevator. Wesley was gone. She removed the chain and opened the door. Noah examined her face. Are you hurt? No. May I come inside? Avery stepped aside. The moment the door closed, the strength left her legs. She caught the edge of the desk. Noah moved forward, then stopped before touching her. All the fear she had delayed since the Cadillac appeared behind her arrived at once. Her hands shook. Her breathing became shallow. I thought he was going to come through the door. He did not. He found me. Yes. You said I was safe. I was wrong. Noah's honesty steadied her more than reassurance would have. He poured water from a bottle and placed it on the table. Avery reached for it. The elevator bell sounded again. Noah turned toward the door. His phone vibrated. He read the message, and something in his expression changed. What Avery asked. Noah did not answer quickly enough. The knock came a few seconds later. Not Wesley's careful rhythm, 2 firm strikes, then silence. Noah opened the door. Roman stood in the hallway. He was alone. No overcoat, no tie. The same charcoal suit he had worn that morning was creased at the elbows. The top button of his shirt was open. Rain had darkened his hair. For the first time since Avery met him, Roman Callahan looked like a man who had arrived without preparing his face for the room. Noah stepped aside. Roman did not enter. He stopped 15 feet from Avery. Neither of them spoke. The hallway lights cast sharp shadows beneath his eyes. Avery placed the water on the table. "You promised Noah you would not come unless I asked." Roman's jaw tightened. "I did. I did not ask. I know." For a moment she saw the old Roman. The man who believed wanting something badly enough justified taking control. Then he lowered his eyes. "I heard Wesley found you. That does not change the promise." "I stopped thinking." Avery's voice sharpened. "That seems to be a pattern today." Roman accepted the words without defense. Yes, one word. No excuse. No explanation about danger. No claim that he had done what was necessary. Avery folded her arms across herself. "Why are you here to see that you are alive? Noah told you. I needed to see it. That sounds like your need, not mine." Roman looked at her. "You are right." The answer unsettled her. She had prepared herself for pressure, not agreement. Roman remained in the doorway. Wesley's access has been terminated. Every account he touched is frozen. Samuel turned over the lakefront records and the Bellini communications. Avery nodded. "My name cleared." "With whom?" "Everyone who was in that room this morning." "Did you tell them I will?" "Not your attorney, me." Avery studied him. Roman took one step forward. Instinctively, she stepped back. He froze. The movement lasted less than a second. It changed everything. 3 years earlier, Avery had walked into Roman's office while armed guards stood outside. She had corrected him in front of senior advisors. She had taken a glass from his hand when he drank too much and told him to sleep. She had never feared his presence. Now he moved toward her, and her body moved away before her mind could stop it. Something in Roman's face broke quietly. He did not take another step. "I would never hurt you," he said. Avery's expression softened, but only slightly. "I know. Then why did you move?" She looked directly into his gray eyes. "Because this morning you showed me that you do not need to raise a hand to make me unsafe." Roman said nothing. Avery continued. "I am not afraid you will strike me. I am afraid that the next time someone puts a convincing folder on your desk, you will punish me before asking one honest question." The hallway seemed to grow silent around them. Even Noah looked away. Roman's voice lowered. "I was wrong. Yes, I should have dismissed the room. Yes, I should have listened. Yes, I should have believed you." Avery's throat tightened. "Then why didn't you?" Roman looked at the floor between them. "When Wesley told me you had betrayed me, I did not think about the business." Avery waited. "I thought about you choosing someone else." The admission hung between them. Roman lifted his eyes. "For 3 years you were the only person I did not question. The only person I allowed close without checking every word. And the moment you became afraid, you destroyed me. Yes, no decoration, no defense, just the truth." Avery pressed her lips together. Hearing him admit it did not repair the conference room. It did not return the hours she spent believing she might die with her name ruined. It did not erase the way 6 men watched her walk out alone. Roman looked at her. "You protected me when I gave you every reason not to. I protected you before you fired me. I know. You did not know that when it mattered. No." Avery felt the words rising from somewhere deeper than anger. "You did not lose my loyalty today, Roman." His eyes held hers. "You lost my trust." The sentence landed without sound. Roman did not move. For once there was no offer waiting behind his silence. No strategy, no larger promise designed to overpower the damage. Avery walked to the door. Roman stepped back into the hallway. She looked at him one final time. "I need you to leave." His jaw tightened. Then he nodded. "All right." Avery closed the door. Roman did not knock. He did not call her name. He did not order Noah to open it. The hallway remained silent. On the other side of the door, Roman stood for several seconds with one hand at his side. Then he turned and walked toward the elevator. That was the first apology Avery believed. The following morning, the hotel receptionist delivered a sealed envelope to Avery's room. Inside was a formal letter clearing her of every accusation. Her security card rested beneath it. A handwritten note lay at the bottom. 7 words. "I should have believed you when it mattered." Avery read the sentence twice. Then she returned the note to the envelope. By noon, Roman had contacted every person who witnessed her dismissal. Patrick Doyle answered on the first ring. Samuel Price received the call while sitting in his office. The other men were summoned individually. Roman did not allow anyone else to speak for him. Avery Sloan was innocent, he told each man. The evidence was false. I was wrong. Some conversations lasted less than 30 seconds. Others ended in uncomfortable silence. Roman did not soften the statement. He did not mention Wesley's manipulation to reduce his own responsibility. He had made the decision. He carried the correction. That afternoon, Avery's phone rang once. "Roman," she answered. "Your name is clear," he said. "I know. Every record Wesley touched is being reviewed." "Good." A pause settled between them. Avery could hear the ticking clock in his office. She had ordered that clock 2 years earlier because the old one lost 3 minutes every week. Roman spoke again. "Your position is available." Avery closed her eyes. There it was, the kind of solution Roman understood. Return what had been taken. Put the pieces back where they belonged. "I do not want my job back." Silence. "I can increase your salary." "No. You can choose your own staff. You can have authority over every administrative department. You are negotiating. I am trying to fix this. That is the problem." Roman stopped. Avery looked out the hotel window. People crossed the street below, carrying bags, coffee, and lives that did not revolve around him. "You believe everything can be repaired by making the offer larger," she said. "Tell me what you want." I wanted you to believe me. I do. Now." Roman said nothing. Avery continued. "I wanted you to believe me in that room. Not because I was useful, not because I knew your schedule. Because I had earned your trust. You had. Then why did one folder erase 3 years?" Roman had no answer. "I am sorry," he said. "I know. It is not enough." "No." Avery appreciated that he understood. Roman's voice became quieter. "What is enough time?" The clock continued ticking on his side of the call. "And distance," Avery said. That answer hurt him. She heard it in the way he exhaled. Still, he did not argue. All right. 2 simple words from a man who had built his life around never surrendering control. Before ending the call, Roman said her name. "Avery." "Yes. Thank you for protecting me when I did not deserve it." Her throat tightened. "Do not make me regret it." "I will not." Avery ended the call. For the first time in 3 years, Avery opened a blank calendar and saw no trace of Roman Callahan's name. No private flights, no emergency meetings, no reminders to call Elena, no black ink marking internal matters, and no red circles warning her that Roman was about to make a decision he would regret. Only empty squares. At first, the freedom frightened her. For years, every hour had carried a purpose before she reached it. Roman's life had arrived in constant motion. Calls before dawn. Meetings moved without notice. Problems that began with a whisper in one room and ended with armed men waiting outside another. Avery had become skilled at surviving inside that motion. Without it, the silence felt too large. She spent 2 more nights at the hotel while Noah's team confirmed that Wesley's remaining contacts had been identified. The Bellini investigation moved beyond Roman's organization and into federal hands. Several accounts were frozen. 2 men connected to the Navy Pier plan disappeared before authorities reached them. Wesley did not. He remained in custody while attorneys argued over charges, evidence, and jurisdiction. Roman did not ask Avery to participate. He did not send files for her review. He did not call to explain what his people had found. He kept his promise. Time, distance. The absence of pressure should have made leaving easy. Instead, Avery found herself reaching for her phone at 6 each morning, expecting Roman's name on the screen. She still woke before sunrise. She still ordered coffee for 2 before remembering there was no one beside her to drink the second cup. Her habits had learned Roman more deeply than her heart wanted to admit. On the 3rd morning, she returned to her apartment. No men waited outside. No black vehicle sat across the street. No envelope rested beneath the door. Roman had arranged nothing. Avery unlocked the apartment and stepped inside. The rooms looked exactly as she had left them. A book remained open beside the sofa. A glass sat near the kitchen sink. Her spare coat hung from the back of a chair. Ordinary things. A life that had continued existing while she organized someone else's world. She placed her security card inside a drawer and closed it. Then she opened her laptop. Avery had received 6 job offers in the 2 days since Roman publicly cleared her name. 3 came from companies connected to Callahan Holdings. She deleted them. 1 came from a law firm whose managing partner had attended Roman's charity dinners. She deleted that too. The 5th was from a financial company in New York. The 6th came from Grant Logistics, a growing transportation firm in Fulton Market. The position was Director of Operations, not Executive Secretary, not Personal Assistant, Director. Avery read the description twice. The company needed someone who could rebuild internal systems, coordinate regional offices, and manage a team that had grown too quickly for its own structure. The salary was lower than Roman's final offer. The office was smaller. The company name meant nothing to the men who controlled Chicago. Avery applied before she could talk herself out of it. 3 days later, she sat across from Grant Logistics' founder in a conference room with a flickering ceiling light and a whiteboard covered in numbers. Melissa Grant was 52, practical, direct, and entirely unimpressed by the Callahan name. "I reviewed your employment history," Melissa said. Avery waited. "You were Roman Callahan's executive secretary for 3 years. "Yes, that is an unusual position to leave without another job waiting." "I did not choose the timing." Melissa studied her. "Were you fired?" "Yes." Why, Avery could have offered the official version. False evidence, internal misconduct, a public correction. Instead, she said, "My employer made a decision without listening to me." By the time he learned the truth, returning was no longer an option. Melissa leaned back. Most candidates would hide that. Most employers would discover it. "That is true." Melissa looked down at Avery's resume. "You have managed schedules, negotiations, security coordination, corporate travel, contract preparation, crisis response, and internal communications." "Yes." "Yet your title was secretary." "Yes." Why, Avery looked through the window toward the brick buildings across the street. Because Roman needed one person he could trust. Because she had accepted more responsibility every month without asking whether her title had changed. Because becoming indispensable had felt like recognition until she realized no one had ever named what she had become. "I stopped asking what the title meant," she said. Melissa watched her quietly. "What does it mean now that I know how much work I was doing under the wrong name?" Melissa smiled. Avery received the offer after her second interview. She accepted that afternoon. Her first day began on a Monday, 3 weeks after she left Callahan Tower. Avery arrived at 8:30 carrying 1 cup of coffee, her own. The Grant Logistics office occupied the 12th floor of a converted warehouse near Fulton Market. Exposed brick covered one wall. The elevators were slow. The reception desk had a crack near the corner, and someone had placed a plant beneath a leaking air vent. Nothing matched. Nothing whispered power. Avery liked it immediately. Her new office had 1 glass wall, a narrow desk, and a view of train tracks stretching west through the city. A silver nameplate rested beside the door. Avery Sloan, Director of Operations. She stood in front of it longer than necessary. No one had given her the title as compensation. No one had offered it to bring her back. She had earned it in a room where Roman's name carried no authority. Melissa appeared beside her. "Do you approve?" Avery looked at the nameplate. "Yes, good. We have a delivery crisis in Milwaukee, 2 managers refusing to speak to each other, and a software system that loses invoices every Friday." Avery set her coffee down. "That sounds manageable." Melissa laughed. "You may change your mind by lunch." By 10, Avery had identified the broken invoice process. By noon, she had moved responsibility away from 2 managers who used confusion to protect themselves. By 3, she had created a temporary tracking system and arranged a call with the Milwaukee warehouse. The work was difficult. It was also hers. At 5:30, Avery closed her laptop and realized no one had asked her to stay. She looked through the office glass. Several employees were already gathering their coats. Melissa passed her door. "Go home. I was finishing the vendor review. It will exist tomorrow." Avery almost said that Roman had never believed in tomorrow when work could be completed tonight. Instead, she shut down the computer. The elevator arrived slowly. When the doors opened, Roman stood inside the reception area, alone. Noah was not beside him. No security officer waited near the windows. No assistant held a phone or coat. Roman wore a dark suit without a tie. His hands rested at his sides. He looked strangely exposed without the movement that usually surrounded him. Avery stopped. The receptionist glanced between them. Roman did not approach. "How did you know where I worked?" Avery asked. "I asked Noah whether contacting you would create a security concern." "That does not answer the question. He told me after I agreed not to interfere with the company." Avery crossed her arms. "What does interfere mean to you?" "No calls to Melissa Grant. No investment offers. No security contracts. No purchasing the building." Avery stared at him. "You considered purchasing the building for approximately 8 seconds. Roman, I rejected the idea. That is not as reassuring as you think." Something almost warm touched his face. "I am still learning." The receptionist pretended to organize papers. Avery lowered her voice. "Why are you here?" Roman glanced toward the conference rooms. "I did not come to offer your job back." "Good. I did not bring a contract." "Also good." "I brought nothing." Avery looked at his empty hands. Roman Callahan rarely entered a room without leverage. The absence of it felt deliberate. He kept his distance. "Please give me 5 minutes." The word had become unfamiliar in his voice, not because he struggled to pronounce it, but because he had spent his life arranging situations where he never needed to ask. Avery studied him. He did not step closer. He did not add that the matter was urgent. He did not remind her that Wesley's betrayal had nearly killed him. He waited. Avery looked at the clock behind reception. 5 minutes. Roman nodded. She led him into the smallest conference room near the elevators. A round table stood beneath a window. 4 mismatched chairs surrounded it. The room probably cost less to furnish than one corner of Roman's office. He sat across from her. Avery placed her coffee between both hands. Roman placed nothing on the table. For several seconds, he said nothing. Avery watched him choose his words. "I spent 3 weeks trying to understand why I made that decision so quickly. You thought I betrayed you." "No." Avery waited. Roman looked directly at her. "I was afraid you had." The distinction reached her before she wanted it to. He continued. "My father trusted a man named Victor Hale. They grew up together, built their first company together. Victor knew every route, every account, every name." Roman's voice remained even, but his hand tightened once against the edge of his chair. "When I was 17, Victor sold information to one of my father's rivals. A meeting location, a time, a car. Avery said nothing. My father survived. 2 other men did not." Roman looked toward the window. "After that, he taught me that trust was a debt people collected when you stopped watching them." "That sounds like fear dressed as advice." It was. Roman turned back to her. I believed him. Avery had heard pieces of Roman's childhood before. Names without stories. Warnings without reasons. He spoke about his father as a force, not a person. Now she saw the shape of the wound beneath the rules. Roman continued. "I built systems around everything, verification, separation, control. I assumed distance made betrayal less likely. You kept people close enough to serve you and far enough that they could not hurt you." "Yes. And then you." One word. Avery's fingers tightened around her coffee. Roman did not look away. "You became the one person I stopped verifying. You knew where I would be before I confirmed it. You knew when Elena called. You knew which routes changed, which meetings mattered, which names should never appear on paper. That was my job." "No." Roman's voice was quiet. "It became more than your job. I knew that. I simply never said it because naming it would mean admitting how much power I had given you." Avery felt anger stir beneath the ache. "You did not give me power." Roman's expression changed. "No, I earned responsibility. You benefited from it. Those are not the same thing." He absorbed the correction. "You are right. 3 weeks earlier, Roman would have explained the difference until his version became the only version allowed in the room. Now he let her words remain. When Wesley gave me that folder, he said I did not react like the head of an organization protecting sensitive information. You reacted like a man who thought the person closest to him had chosen someone else. Yes. And you punished me before asking why. Yes. Avery looked at him. No excuse, there are explanations. That is not what I asked. No excuse. The honesty did not erase what happened. It made the room quieter. Roman folded his hands. I am not asking you to forgive me today. Good. I am not asking you to return. I will not, I know. Avery watched his face. The answer came without pain disguised as persuasion. Roman continued. I am asking for the opportunity to earn back whatever part of your trust you are willing to let me earn. Avery looked through the glass wall toward her office. The silver nameplate remained beside the door. She thought of her new team waiting for decisions she was qualified to make. She thought of Melissa telling her to go home because the work would still exist tomorrow. She thought of the first morning she carried only one coffee. I am not leaving this job. I know. You cannot contact Melissa. I will not. You cannot send cars. All right. No expensive gifts. Roman's mouth tightened slightly. All right. No men following me from a distance because you call it protection. That may require negotiation. Avery raised one eyebrow. Roman exhaled. No unrequested security. Better. If there is a confirmed threat, Noah contacts you directly. Not you, Noah. Avery considered that. Fine. Roman waited. She had expected the conversation to feel like a battle. Instead, it felt like drawing boundaries on a map neither of them had ever used. Avery looked down at her coffee. You can start with coffee. Roman blinked once. What Saturday morning? He remained still. In public, she added. All right, 1 hour. Yes, no security at the next table pretending to read newspapers. Across the street, 3 blocks away, Avery, 4. Roman almost smiled. 2 blocks. She considered him with the seriousness he usually reserved for contracts. 2 blocks, no visible weapons. I cannot control every person in Chicago carrying a weapon. Your people, no visible weapons. Avery held out her hand. Deal. Roman looked at it. For a second, she remembered the morning he fired her security card beside his hand, his eyes lowering to it after the decision was already made. Then Roman reached across the table and shook her hand gently. He did not hold it longer than necessary. He did not use the contact to pull her closer. Saturday, he said, 10 o'clock. I will be there, I know. He used 4 minutes. At the door, Roman stopped. Avery expected him to say her name. He did not. He opened the door and left. Saturday arrived with clear skies and cold wind moving off Lake Michigan. Avery chose a coffee shop in Lincoln Park where the tables were close together, and no one cared who Roman Callahan was. She arrived at 10. Roman was already seated near the window. 1 cup rested in front of him. Black. No sugar. He had not ordered hers. Avery noticed immediately. You remembered the rule. You did not tell me your order. You know my order. I know what you drank while working for me. Roman looked toward the counter. I did not know whether you wanted the same thing now. The answer settled somewhere inside her. Avery ordered coffee with cream and sat across from him. For the first 10 minutes, they spoke about nothing important. The weather, the slow elevator at Grant Logistics, a restaurant Elena wanted Roman to try. Avery waited for him to turn the conversation toward Wesley, the organization, or the danger that had brought them here. He did not. After 20 minutes, Roman asked, Do you like the new job? Yes. What do you like about it? The question surprised her more than it should have. He had asked whether she liked things before. Restaurants, hotels, cars. He had rarely asked why. I make decisions that belong to me, Avery said. Roman listened. My team disagrees with me sometimes. Do you fire them? No. That sounds inefficient. Avery looked at him. Roman's expression remained serious for half a second. Then she saw the dry humor beneath it. She smiled. Sometimes they are right. That seems inconvenient. It is. They finished the hour. Roman stood when Avery did. He did not ask when he would see her again. He walked toward the door. Avery watched him reach it. Next Saturday, she said. Roman turned. Same time, different place. He nodded. Send me the address. The second coffee lasted 90 minutes. The third became lunch. By the 4th Saturday, Roman had learned not to arrive 20 minutes early because Avery interpreted it as pressure. By the 6th, he stopped checking the street every time a dark vehicle slowed near the window. Avery never saw his security, though she suspected Noah remained somewhere within 2 blocks. She chose not to ask. Some changes happened in stages. Roman did not tell her he was changing. He let her observe it. When Avery canceled one Saturday because a warehouse system failed, Roman sent one message. "Do you need anything?" Avery replied. "No," Roman answered. "All right." No driver appeared. No consultant arrived. No mysterious contractor called Melissa offering help. Roman allowed her problem to remain hers. Avery worked until midnight and solved it with her own team. The following morning, she found herself wanting to tell him. That desire frightened her more than his silence. She waited 2 days. Then she called. Roman answered before the second ring. "Are you safe?" Avery closed her eyes. "Yes." A pause. Then hello. She laughed quietly. "Hello." Roman did not ask why she called. Avery told him about the warehouse system. He listened. When she finished, he said, "You sound proud." "I am. You should be." No advice, no suggestion that his people could have solved it faster, only recognition. Their conversations became longer. Coffee became dinner, but only after Avery suggested it. Dinner became walks along the lakefront when the weather warmed. Roman discovered that walking beside Avery required a different kind of attention than moving through rooms where everyone made space for him. She stopped without warning. She changed direction. She paused to watch dogs running through the park. Roman learned not to interpret every choice as a challenge. One evening they walked near North Avenue Beach while the last light faded across the water. Avery wore a dark coat with her hands in the pockets. Roman remained half a step beside her, close enough to hear, far enough that she never felt guided. "Did you love me before you fired me?" she asked. Roman stopped. The question had lived between them for months without a name. Avery turned toward him. He looked across the water. "Yes." The answer came without hesitation. "Did you know I knew I trusted you more than anyone? That is not the same thing." "No." Roman looked at her. "I knew your absence changed a room. I knew I looked for you before I made difficult decisions. I knew I slept better when you were in the building." Avery's throat tightened. "But you did not call it love." "I did not call anything love if I could rename it as loyalty." The honesty hurt. It also opened something. Avery looked down at the sand. "Did you think I loved you?" Roman was silent for several seconds. "I hoped. You never asked. I was afraid the answer would give you a reason to leave." Avery met his eyes. "So you kept me close by never naming what was happening." "Yes, that was still control. I know." The wind moved between them. Roman did not reach for her. Avery stepped closer on her own. She touched 2 fingers to the front of his coat. Roman's breathing changed. "This does not mean everything is repaired," she said. "I know, it does not mean I am coming back. I know, it means I am choosing this moment." Roman lowered his head. He stopped before their mouths met. Avery understood the question. She answered by closing the distance. The kiss was quiet. No urgency, no possession. Roman's hand touched her waist only after she leaned into him. His other hand remained at his side. Avery had imagined kissing him before, in elevators after midnight, in his office while rain struck the windows, in cars waiting outside meetings where both of them pretended they were only employer and employee. The reality felt different, less dangerous, more honest. When they separated, Roman rested his forehead lightly against hers. He said nothing. For once, silence did not feel like control. It felt like permission. Months passed. Trust returned in smaller pieces than love. Love could survive inside longing. Trust required evidence. Roman gave it. When Avery said she was busy, he believed her. When she disagreed with him, he did not treat it as disloyalty. When she asked for space, he did not punish the distance. The greatest test arrived in early winter. One of Roman's regional managers, Caleb Morgan, was accused of selling warehouse access codes to an outside group. The evidence included system logs, a copied message, and security footage placing Caleb near a restricted terminal. The folder reached Roman's desk at 7 in the morning. Noah stood across from him. Samuel Price waited near the windows. The evidence looked complete. Roman opened the first page. For one moment, he saw Avery standing at the far end of the conference table, her face controlled, her voice asking for 10 minutes. Roman closed the folder. "Bring Caleb in alone." Noah nodded. No one else. No one. Caleb arrived 20 minutes later, pale and angry. Roman placed the folder on the desk. "This evidence names you." Caleb looked at the first page. "I did not do this." Roman watched his face. Months earlier, he would have demanded a confession or ordered security to search the man's home. Instead, he said, "Tell me where the report is wrong." Caleb showed him that the terminal footage came from a night he entered the office to repair a broken security panel. The copied message was missing the previous line, which changed its meaning. The access logs came from a credential shared by 3 managers during an emergency. Noah investigated. By noon, another employee confessed. Roman cleared Caleb's name before the accusation left the office. That evening, he called Avery. "I heard your voice today." She sat on the sofa in her apartment with a book open beside her. "What did it say?" "Do not confuse fear with proof." Avery closed the book. "That sounds like good advice." "It usually is." She smiled. "Are you coming over?" Roman paused. "Do you want me to?" "Yes. I will be there in 30 minutes. 40. "Why 40? "Because I know you are already standing." Roman looked down at the coat in his hand. 40. He arrived in 42. Avery opened the door before he knocked. Roman held no flowers. No expensive wine, only a paper bag from the small Italian restaurant near her building. "You brought dinner. You said last week that their pasta was good. You remembered." Roman looked at her. "I always remember." The words belonged to another morning, another office, another version of them. Avery stepped aside and let him in. The following spring, nearly 1 year after the day she left Callahan Tower, Avery returned to the building for the first time. Not as Roman's secretary, not as an employee. Grant Logistics had entered negotiations with one of Callahan Holdings' legitimate transportation companies. Melissa asked Avery to lead the operational review. Avery accepted. She arrived at 10 in the morning carrying her own portfolio. The lobby guards greeted her by name. No one asked for her old security card. A temporary visitor pass waited at reception. Avery looked at it. Visitor. The word made her smile. The private elevator carried her to the 46th floor. When the doors opened, the executive hallway looked almost the same. Marble floors, glass walls, Chicago spread beyond the windows. Yet something had changed. The desk outside Roman's office was gone. In its place stood a smaller reception station staffed by 2 assistants. No single person carried every detail of Roman's life. He had divided the responsibilities, built systems, allowed others to question decisions. Avery entered his office. Roman stood beside the windows. He wore a charcoal suit and held 2 cups of coffee, black for him, cream for her. He offered her one. Avery took it. "You remembered. I always remember." This time the words did not sound like a burden. 2 chairs stood near the window where her desk had once been. No papers rested between them, no folders, no security reports, only space. Roman sat in one chair. Avery took the other. Below them, the Chicago River moved beneath the morning light. "Do you miss it?" Roman asked. "Being your secretary, being here." Avery looked around the office that once felt like the center of her world. She remembered early mornings, quiet victories, and nights when she believed being needed was the same as being loved. She remembered the conference room, the security card, the rain. She also remembered the first coffee under new rules, the long walks, the moment Roman asked before touching her, the night he listened to an accused man before opening a second folder. "No," she said. Roman nodded. "Good." Avery studied him. "You mean that?" "Yes. You do not want me back behind that desk." "No." "What do you want?" Roman looked at her. "You." The answer was simple. Avery waited. Roman continued. "Not your schedule. Not your judgment whenever I refuse to use my own. Not your ability to protect me from every consequence." Avery's mouth softened. "That last one sounds useful. It is extremely useful. But I want the woman who built a life after leaving mine." Avery looked down at her coffee. "And if that life does not always have room for you, then I wait until it does. You hate waiting. I have developed several character strengths, name 2, patience. That is one." Roman considered. "I now ask before purchasing buildings." Avery laughed. The sound filled the office. Roman watched her without treating the smile like proof that all damage had vanished. He had learned not to claim every good moment as victory. Avery set her coffee down. "Our meeting begins in 15 minutes. I know. Melissa expects a difficult negotiation. It will be difficult. She thinks you will try to control the shipping terms." "I will." Avery raised one eyebrow. Roman leaned back. "Professionally, good." And when the meeting ends, Avery looked toward the chairs beside the window. "Dinner." Roman's expression warmed. "At my place, mine. 7:30. I will bring food. No security outside my apartment. They stay in the car." Across the street, Roman sighed. 2 blocks. Avery held out her hand. "Deal." Roman looked at it, remembering the small conference room at Grant Logistics. He took her hand. This time, neither of them released it immediately. Once Roman Callahan believed power meant making people afraid to leave. He had built an empire through silence control and the certainty that every person had a price. Avery was the first person who proved him wrong. She walked away when staying would have cost too much of herself. She survived without his name. She built a career he could not give her and a life he could not purchase. Roman had spent years making people fear losing him. Avery taught him what it meant to fear losing someone else. More importantly, she taught him that fear did not justify possession. Love was not a locked door. Loyalty was not obedience. Trust was not something a powerful man could demand after breaking it. It returned slowly, in honest questions, in respected boundaries, in promises kept when no one was watching. Roman could command rooms. He could silence enemies. He could make dangerous men lower their voices when he entered. But he could not order Avery Sloan to remain beside him. He could only become a man she might choose. And when Avery looked across the Chicago skyline, her hand resting freely inside his, she stayed for the only reason that mattered, because the choice was hers.